I'm Larry O'Connor alongside, hey, look, he's back.
Yeah.
It's Brian Wilson, all tanned, rested, and ready.
He is. And also on the line is
Did you just third person yourself?
He is. Yes, I did.
Wow.
He's rested. Joe diGenova is on the line, our legal analyst, former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia, all-round fine fella. Hello, Joe.
Hello, guys.
You know, I don't want to spend a lot of time going back over the finer points of the Hobby Lobby decision, but during the 4th of July, I was down in Florida, a little 4th of July gathering, and, you know, somebody did the prayer when it was time to eat the barbecue and the potato salad, and there was a sincere prayer for the continuance of our constitutional protections. And there were nods all around, because it was as if people said, you know what, I really do fear that our constitutional protections are being dwindled away by an executive that oversteps his authority, as we found in the Hobby Lobby case. This has real ramifications, and we have an administration that's continuing, you know, through their actions to ignore the rule of law or push too far when they do write rules and regulations.
Well, what's happening out there is actually seeping into the body politic.
Yeah.
You're seeing this now. This is being reflected in poll data about the president's performance, about his stature among other presidents over the last 50 years, and about people's concern for who should govern the country. There is a very real fear developing, and it's well-based, may I say. This is not irrational. This is a rational fear of large government. Obamacare is a symbol as well as a danger. Remember what it does. It forces people to buy a product or pay a penalty. Now, of course, the Chief Justice tells us it's really a tax, even though nobody said it was at the time. The bottom line is this. People are catching on. That's why the president's numbers are down, and that's why the Republicans, if they're smart, will play this well, play it out smartly, take the Senate, and make the president's life miserable for the next 2 years.
Joe, beyond Hobby Lobby last week, we saw a lot of things going on here in the district, specifically with the IRS case. Right. And this thing just keeps getting more complicated and more complicated for the IRS. Now, this week, the lawyers for the IRS are going to go in and try to explain exactly to a judge exactly what happened with these emails. Where is this headed?
Good luck with that.
Well, this is actually the administration's worst nightmare. As you know, the emails that showed that there had been a cover-up in the White House and elsewhere about various things came from these lawsuits that are pending in U.S. District Court and elsewhere. On Thursday, IRS lawyers are going to have to go in front of Judge Reggie Walton and tell him why they never told him over the last year that the emails that he had ordered produced were all destroyed when 7 computers all crashed at the same time and had all of their contents unrecoverable. Now, when I was a prosecutor, if I had issued a subpoena to someone in a corporation,
right,
and the 7 key figures in that corporation all had their computers crash and all their emails were, guess what? They would all be indicted for obstruction of justice. And at this point, any rational federal judge is going to really slam the IRS. And what's going to happen is they're not going to be able to explain it to the judge's satisfaction. And what he's going to do is he's going to issue what we call an adverse inference. He's going to say that as a result of the apparently purposeful destruction of the evidence, all of the plaintiffs, which means true to vote, will get a factual inference which says that all the information that was lost would have been beneficial to them. And basically, they're going to win, and they're going to get huge damages, and there's going to be referrals to the bar of all the lawyers at the IRS involved in this, and many of the lawyers may very well be held in contempt by Walton. This is going to get very ugly. It's not going to get better. It is the Democrats' worst nightmare, and it makes Elijah Cummings look like an ignominious fool for all of the idiotic things he has said repeatedly about the IRS case.
What do we know about this judge? He's sort of he's a really
really
independent fellow, isn't he?
I actually was an assistant U.S. attorney with Reggie Walton. He's a very good guy. He's a Bush appointee to the bench, Bush 1, actually. He's a very, very fine guy. He's a tough cookie. He came out of Philadelphia. He was actually a defense attorney in Philadelphia, became an assistant U.S. attorney. He's known to be quite fair, has a little bit of a pro-government tinge, But I think in this instance, the IRS lawyers are in for a very, very bad couple of days.
But Joe diGenova, what exactly can this judge do, and how far can his influence reach here on this case?
He can order an outside expert at the expense of the government to go in and conduct a thorough investigation and a reconstruction. His powers in this case as a result of what the government did and what it failed to tell him. Remember, this hearing is about why the government did not tell him that all 7 of these computers had crashed and all of their emails were lost. They did not tell him that for a year. If you're a federal judge and you hear that about the IRS, the government's gatekeeper of all data about Americans, you are not happy. He can make them, he can force an audit, he can send in special investigators, but he can also punish the lawyers and the head of the agency. He can punish John Koskinen. He can hold people in contempt. He can fine them hundreds of thousands of dollars personally, not something that has to be paid by the government. He can personally hold all of these people in front of him financially accountable.
We talked about it earlier, Joe. Down in North Carolina today, there's going to be a hearing about the constitutionality of that state's voter ID law.
Yes.
And for the first time joining, the NAACP and the ACLU, saying that these laws are discriminatory, are a group of students who's saying, you know what, it's the 26th Amendment that gave us the right to vote at the age of 18. And these voter ID laws are discriminatory against young college-aged people.
Well, apparently these college-aged people may have gotten into college, but they're not smart enough to stay there. This is one of the dumbest ideas. This is going to be struck down without even barely a thought by any normal U.S. District Court judge. Even a Clinton appointee or an Obama appointee is not going to allow this to stand. This is almost an abusive use of litigation. It may be an added idea, but it has no traction whatsoever. All of these people are adults. They all have the ability to get an ID. And remember, the Supreme Court has already ruled that presenting photo identification for voting is constitutional and it doesn't violate the Voting Rights Act. And you know who wrote that opinion? John Paul Stevens. That was over 15 years ago. So this is already settled law. What you see is the picking away by people in an effort to make it a political issue. This has nothing to do with the right to vote. This has to do with getting people out to vote. This is about encouraging the base to get out over ugly issues. It's really quite stupid.
Finally, Joe diGenova, we only have about 30 seconds, but I'd love for you to chime in on the crisis at the border and the president and many Democrats suggesting that this is the result of not passing immigration reform. Is there something in that law that I missed that would have stopped this?
This is Obama chaos. This is government by chaos. This is purposeful. The president, of course, as you know, the American people don't believe him anymore, so they know that the administration, Jay Johnson, the president, others, their spokespersons, they're all lying about this. This is a purposeful decision to get people coming illegally from Central America to come here, to let them know that they can stay, because the truth is, notwithstanding these deportation orders, none of those hearings will ever be held.
All right, Joe diGenova, always a pleasure.
Great to see you guys.